On the news, service chiefs arrive Maiduguri ahead of President Buhari's visit. Fashola laments sharp increase in deaths occurring from road accidents. And Nigeria's inflation rate drops for the second consecutive month. Glad to have you join us on News Now. I am Mary Kanu. The federal government has approved the continuation of the Federal Capital Development Authority land swap scheme. Minister of the FCT, Mohammed Bello, disclosed this to State House correspondents at the end of the week's Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. The initiative, worth about 1 trillion naira under the Goodluck Jonathan administration, was designed to remedy the infrastructure deficit in the federal capital by swapping land with private investors who would in turn provide necessary infrastructure.
I presented a memo and an update on the FCT land infrastructure swap initiative to the Federal Executive Council. And after a lot of deliberations, the Federal Executive Council approved the FCTA land infrastructure swap initiative, which is popularly known as land swap, which was commenced some time ago by previous FCTA administration. And after a review of what has transpired over the years and also changes made, the Federal Executive Council approved that we now should continue with the land swap initiative on the basis of amendments to the procedure as well as new safeguards introduced so that investors, the FCT, that is the government, as well as off-takers will be protected.
Also addressing journalists at the meeting, the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, expressed concerns over the rising number of deaths from accidents on major roads across the country, adding that interventions will be introduced by the ministry to curb the trend.
We saw that for the month of January, the number of people who died from road crashes exceeded the combined numbers of people who died from malaria and COVID together for the same month. And whilst malaria and COVID were receiving national concerted attention, perhaps it was necessary to bring this to the attention of government as part of our strategy for protecting life and property. My office has asked the FRSC to focus on 3 roads: the Lagos-Ibadan Highway, the Abuja-Kano Highway, and the Abuja-Kefi-Lafia Highway, which showed from the data we studied that they had the cumulative highest number of accidents.
The Nigerian service chiefs have arrived in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, ahead of President Muhammadu Buhari's one-day visit to the state. The service chiefs, alongside the Inspector General of Police Usman Baba, were led to Maiduguri by the Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Irabo. They are expected to meet with top security officers of the theater of war in order to make adequate arrangements for the presidential visit. President Muhammadu Buhari will visit Maiduguri on Thursday to appraise the security situation and also inaugurate some of the viable projects executed by the federal and state governments. And gunmen have killed 4 policemen and an officer of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps in Zamfara State. The security operatives were killed in an ambush by heavily armed bandits along Gora community in Maradun local government area of the state. 1 person was also critically injured in the attack. Meanwhile, the spokesperson of the State Police Command, Shehu Muhammad, confirmed the incident, saying the ambush followed the killing of an unspecified number of bandits who blocked the Bakura Gusau Road on Sunday afternoon. In a similar development, gunmen suspected to be bandits have killed one person and kidnapped 2 nationals of the Republic of China at a mining site in Taraba State. The police say it has already begun a manhunt for the fleeing bandits, with a full-scale investigation currently ongoing. And Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmoud Yakubu, has announced the dates the governorship elections in Ekiti and Osun states will be conducted. At the meeting of the commission held at its headquarters in Abuja, Yakubu said the detailed schedule of activities for the 2 governorship elections have been uploaded on the commission's website. The INEC boss added that efforts are being made to relocate many polling units from inappropriate places such as shrines and religious houses to public buildings to become more accessible to voters, polling agents and the media during elections.
In the sequence of off-season elections, the Ekiti and Osun State governorship elections are holding next year. In keeping with our policy of announcing the dates of elections in advance to enable early and effective preparations by all concerned, the Commission has approved that the Ekiti governorship election will hold on Saturday, 18th June 2022, while the Osun State governorship election will hold 1 month later on Saturday, 16th July 2022. Meanwhile, the entire report has already been uploaded on the INEC website. Infographics of the distribution of the new polling units on state-by-state basis and the Federal Capital Territory have also been uploaded on the Commission's website and social media platforms. The Commission also made efforts to relocate many polling units from inappropriate locations, such as private residences and properties, palaces of traditional rulers, and places of worship, to public buildings accessible to voters, polling agents, observers, and the media during elections. After consultation with stakeholders, the Commission has successfully removed 749 polling units from inappropriate locations to appropriate public facilities or open spaces in line with our policy to guarantee unencumbered access to polling units for all voters.
After 2 months of strike action by judiciary workers, courts across Nigeria have reopened following an agreement reached between officials of the union and the National Judicial Council as regards the implementation of financial autonomy. Our correspondent Mudisola Matami visited the Lagos State High Court in Ikeja to observe the scene and files in this report.
The Lagos State High Court in Ikeja, like many others across the country, is not seeing this much activity in the past 2 months. Activities had been grounded by the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, demanding the implementation of the Executive Order 10, which grants financial autonomy to the judiciary. But normal activities are now returning gradually, with lawyers and litigants seen moving in and out of the courts, while minimal business activities are also taking place. Lawyers explain some of the impacts of the 2-month break on justice dispensation.
The court has been shut down for over 2 months, and that has done a whole lot of disservice to both litigants, lawyers, and the general public alike.
The will of justice in our country grants slowly, but I want us to look at it whether there can be quick dispensation, quick delivery of justice, so that we can get justice in time, so that we not fall to the margin that say justice delay is justice denied.
If you look at this from the point of litigants, so many would have, their business will have stalled in some sense. There are some decisions that you need to refer to court in an ideal society that because of this they will not be able to refer to court, and some people actually need to make some business decisions based on pending issues in court. You talk about the congestion of prisons. You won't be able to admit new inmates because you're not even charging people to court. So the police cells will be clogged as well. So it's a big news.
Some other lawyers expressed mixed views and uncertainties about the promise made by the government to implement financial autonomy for the judiciary.
The little I know of politicians, they have never lived by their words. Put yourself in the parable of somebody who had been your slave, whom you have been using for long to make money, to make ends meet, to beef up your pocket, to accentuate your status as a human being. Just overnight, that effigy of slavery now said he wanted autonomy, he wanted to go. And so you think it's going to be an easy battle? I doubt if they will implement it.
So we want to believe that the court, the governors, beg your pardon, we act based on integrity, based on the memorandum of action that was actually signed, that they will go ahead to implement, that agreement for the good of the nation, for the good of the masses, for the good of lawyers, and ultimately for the good of the judiciary.
Another demand Juston is making of the government is the protection from persecution and peculiar allowance for its members. Mojisola Matomi, TV360 Lagos.
On June 16, 1976, thousands of black students from Soweto, South Africa took to the streets to protest against the inferior quality of their education. To honor their courage and in memory of the hundreds of students killed during the protest, the International Day of the African Child was established and is celebrated annually on June 16. Our correspondent Oyin Adekunle has been speaking to an expert on the current plight of the African child and the improvements made so far on their right to good education.
According to Nelson Mandela, the true character of society is revealed in how it treats its children. The International Day of the African Child not only raises awareness on the importance of education for children in Africa, but also highlights the multiple threats facing children and how it impacts their rights to education. The harsh economic realities brought by the COVID-19 pandemic is one of the most recent factors that have impacted children in African communities. Journalist and children's rights activist Betty Abba says with the soaring number of out-of-school children in sub-Saharan Africa, it is difficult to score government high in terms of child protection.
Nothing actually significant has been done to really address the conditions of the African child. When we talk in terms of education, in terms of how safe the African child is, in terms of food security, the kind of access they have to food. Millions and millions of children across Nigeria specifically are in their conditions with no access to any form of government support. Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children, and this has been on consistently for over a decade. What significant step has government taken to ensure that children stay back in school? Nothing. It's mostly tokenism. It's mostly just politics, PR. At the end of the day, the situation basically remains the same.
The insurgency in Nigeria's north has also increased the number of challenges that thousands of children face every day. Abba says aside from children in internally displaced camps whose conditions are in public eye, there are several undocumented others putting up with hard conditions on a daily basis.
Many children are going through unspeakable, situations, conditions. There are so many displaced people's camps that are not reckoned as official displaced people's camps. And they live in very worse conditions. Those are the places where sex for food happens. Those are the places where children are being sold. Those are the places where children are being trafficked because the conditions are just horrible. And then we have orphanages. Our organization, Sea Hope, has had to work with NGOs across the orphanage homes across the Middle Belt. And so there are so many, there are thousands and thousands of children in these orphanages that government has completely forgotten about. They are at the mercy of religious organizations, at the mercy of NGOs and public-spirited individuals.
Clearly, a lot of work still needs to be done, but perhaps the first step will be for leaders to remember and fulfill their obligations to children.
Government has to prioritize the conditions of children that are impacted by these things, to ensure that as much as possible they are provided for, to ensure as much as possible that they receive the psychosocial support that they need, to ensure that they are put in school, and to ensure their total rehabilitation as much as possible.
On this year's celebration of the African child, governments, civil societies and other stakeholders have been urged to play their part in accelerating the implementation of Agenda 2040 for an Africa fit for children. Oyin Adekunle, TV360, Nigeria.
The Minister of State for Environment, Sharon Ikazo, says the country's national biosecurity policy will go a long way in improving citizens' health, agriculture and the environment. The minister said this at a review of the draft policy by the National Biosafety Management Agency. The two-day event, which opened in Abuja on Tuesday, was organized by the agency in collaboration with the World Health Organization. TV360's Abisola Adebayo now reports.
The review of the National Biosafety Policy is one way through which the federal government says it aims to achieve its primary goal of a healthy environment and citizenry. The Minister of State for Environment, represented by a director in the ministry, Lawrence Adigwe, says measures are in place to ensure prompt response to environmental threats.
I wish to re-emphasize that humans, animals, plants and water bodies, which are at the receiving end of the impact of bio threats, are part of the environment, and the negative impact on any of them seriously affects the ecosystem and disrupts the socio-economic activities of the country. Therefore, this document before us will drive the institutionalization of a harmonized and workable biosecurity system, which will serve as a fundamental approach to minimizing the risk of biological threats to human, animal, and plant health.
The MBMA boss and the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Akin Abayomi, also noted the importance of minimizing human impact on the environment for safer and healthier communities.
All the thematic areas of this draft policy will be conscientiously digested, and we are hoping you all put to bear your various knowledges so that we can have a document that can meet our national biosecurity requirements, that will serve as a model for other countries to emulate.
What we're trying to do basically is to minimize the impact of human beings on the environment, the biosphere, and ensure that as we develop technologically, that we're not having a negative impact on our environment, either industrially, agriculturally, or environmentally, and that we derive the free gifts of nature which are there to protect us and ensure we have a secure environment and biosphere.
The MBMA is also seeking the support of non-governmental organizations and other stakeholders in reducing the risks posed by biological threats to human, animal, and plant health. Abisola Adebayo, TV360, Lagos.
Well, we'll take a break here, but still to come, 4 security officers killed in Cameroon ambush. Details of that after this break. Glad to have you back. Well, here's a quick reminder of some of our top stories tonight. President Muhammadu Buhari will on Thursday embark on a one-day official visit to Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. During the visit, the president will appraise the security situation and inaugurate some of the developmental projects executed by the state government. We also told you that activists have called for more political will in addressing issues affecting children across Africa. The demands were made in commemoration of the International Day of the African Child to raise awareness on the continuing need for improvement of education provided to African children. Well, in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. Nigeria has recorded 17 new cases of COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, raising the total infection tally to 167,095. For the 10th consecutive day, Nigeria has recorded 0 COVID-19 deaths, maintaining the death toll of 2,117. Meanwhile, the federal government says it is expecting the delivery of the second batch of 3.92 million doses of Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine between the end of July and early August this year. According to the Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Faisal Shuaib, the vaccines will be obtained through the COVAX facility and which will be from non-Indian sources like South Korea. And a search is underway in Liberia for nearly 140 people who tested positive for COVID-19 in the last few weeks but who have not reported to health facilities for treatment and isolation. The Health Ministry said it became aware of the problem when its COVID management team noticed the discrepancy between those being treated and test results as it tries to get a handle on COVID-19 infections. The group is said to include people who had gone to get a COVID test as they plan to travel outside the country. The health minister said efforts to trace those who had tested positive had been unsuccessful as their contact details were incorrect. But we'll take a break and return with business and international stories. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's join Abisola Adebayo for the latest in the world of business. Over to you now, Abisola.
Thank you very much, Mary. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's consumer price index has continued to raise concern among industry experts despite a decline in inflation rate for 2 consecutive months. According to the latest data published by the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria's CPI for May stood at 17%, which is a 0.19% drop from the 18% recorded in April. Our correspondent Folashade Ogunride tells us more in this next report.
Again, Nigeria has recorded another decline in its inflation rate, failing predictions by experts of a continued increase in 2021. Amid disagreement over April's headline inflation of 18.12%, which experts believe does not mirror current realities, rise in food index has again taken center stage.
The food index of 22.28%, by all standards, is still very high. I mean, by whether continental or global standard, this is very, very high inflation level. I know the implication of that for poverty. For the average citizen, particularly the low-income group, an increasing proportion of their income is now going into food expenditure on food, sometimes as high as 70 or 80%. So by the time they expend on food, they expend on transport, their income is virtually finished.
While rising insecurity, forex scarcity and naira devaluation have been identified as part of the major causes of food price hike, the World Bank says soaring food prices have pushed 7 million Nigerians into poverty. This expert says is worrisome.
It means that there will continue to be pressure on the limited resources, which is part of what is also fueling inflation. So when you look at the report, they tied that increase in poverty level to inflation, because what inflation does, it erodes purchasing power. And Nigerians will not be able to afford the quantity of what they used to afford or afford some of those items as prices increase.
Despite the drop in inflation rates for the months of April and May, experts agree that critical reforms are needed to reduce inflation and accelerate recovery.
We want to tackle this inflation problem. We have to tackle the issue of insecurity, the issue of transportation costs, the cost of diesel, the issue of logistics at the ports, you know, and the issue of even the environmental issues like desertification, the issue of productivity in agriculture. They need to apply more technology into agricultural practices in the country. So these are some of the things we need to do if we must tackle this problem of inflation.
The unprecedented effects of COVID-19 and oil price crash have caused a continuous decline in the fortunes of monoproduct economies like Nigeria, and with more internal and external borrowings, it's a wait-and-see situation on the nation's economic future. Folashade Ogrinde, TV360 News.
We'll take a pause here and return with a review of the stock market. Sell-offs eased the beat on the floor of the Nigeria exchange today as the appearance of the bulls spurred the markets an increase of about 30 billion naira. Crucial market indicators rose by 0.15% to close at 38,564 basis points. Market capitalization today also stood at 20.099%. 20.099 trillion naira rather. Today's positive turns can be attributed to more equities recording price appreciation. However, gains accrued by mostly medium capitalized stocks led the market to its gains today as Cornest and Morrison led the list of active stocks that recorded impressive volume spikes today. They recorded a combined 17 kobo increase. On the flip side, however, that's our losers list for today. Abe Mortgage Bank PLC as well as Chi PLC, both from the financial services sector, led our losers list today. They recorded a combined 17 kobo loss. Moving on now to our market summary of today. The positive trend on the market today saw 302 million units of shares valued at over 2 billion naira exchanging hands in 4,387 deals today on the floor of the Nigerian exchange. Moving on now to our global scene. It's only the FTSE that's in the positive territory, as you can see right here. The Dow Jones and the Nikkei both traded in the negative territory. London's FTSE today is trading higher, helped by gains in industrial and defensive stocks. It recorded a 0.17% increase. The Dow Jones is still in the negative territory from the previous session as data showing stronger inflation and weaker U.S. retail sales in May spooked already jittery investors awaiting the results of the Federal Reserve's latest policy meeting. So it's trading a 0.28% decline today. Japan stocks in the same vein is also trading a 0.51% decline today. That's all on stock market review. Over to Mary for the rest of the news.
Thank you very much for that update, Bisola. And now in international news, 4 security officials have been reportedly killed, with 4 soldiers missing in an ambush in O2 in Cameroon's troubled southwest province. Regional authorities said a mixed contingent of security personnel was on patrol when they were ambushed by armed men believed to be separatist fighters on Monday. The secessionist leader, Mark Barata, confirmed the attack and attributed it to the leader of an English-speaking militia. The Anglophone northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon have been plagued for 4 years by a bloody conflict between armed groups demanding the independence of the 2 regions and government security forces. Well, up next is Entertainment Report on News Now.
Nollywood actor Olanrewaju Omiyinka, popularly known as Baba Ijesha, has been denied bail. Baba Ijesha has been in detention since April 22nd when the Lagos State Police Command announced his arrest for allegedly sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl in the care of popular comedian Princess. Baba Ijesha was arraigned before a magistrate's court in Yaba on Wednesday for alleged child molestation. He pleaded not guilty on a 4-count charge of sexual assault and indecent treatment of a child. He was, however, denied bail by the magistrate as his bail application was rejected and is to remain in detention till July 13th. Big Brother Naija reality star Toby Bakre is set to make his debut lead role in a new Jade Osiberu-directed film. The actor shared the exciting news in a video recently shared on his Instagram handle. Since participating in the fan-favorite reality show Big Brother, Bakre has gone on to explore his acting skill with appearances in major productions, including Kaide Kassim's Sugar Rush and Ramsem Noah's Rattlesnake. Although very little is known about the Untitled project, aside that it also stars actress Adesowa Itomi, who will be making her return to the screens on the production. And that is all that's far for you in the entertainment segment of News Now.
And in sports, in a bid to further the spread of American football across schools in Lagos State, the American Football Association of Nigeria has organized a one-day exhibition game at the Baptist Academy School, Obanikoro. The exhibition match was between Baptist Academy School, Abeokuta Grammar School and JPTS Institute of Science Management and Technology. Organizers say the game is a great avenue for interaction for the participating schools and also creates awareness to enable the schools to make American football one of their major sports activities.
American football is being accepted right now in schools because since we are focusing on grassroots development, right? I mean, today you will see here students from JPTS, Nigerian American University. You also see children from Baptist Academy, you know, in great numbers. You'll see them playing, you know, their games today in this exhibition. And that's to tell you that, you know, there are so many schools to reach, and we're ready, we are prepared to equip these schools with all the necessary trainings to give them.
You can get different schools to interact, learn a little bit more about American football, and also help grow the sport from the grassroots. We hope that in the next year, 2 years, this becomes something that is better known around the country, and also something that actually adds value with respect to health, diversity, development of people.
Well, that's all on our package on News Now. Thank you for watching. I am Mary Kanu. Bye for now.